All right, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. I am back here for the last video in a series of 8 that are covering the core topics and principles from Your True You Journey, which is the book that I put together. It is available on Amazon, and as well as the core content of the 9-week course that I run called Your True You Journey. And so today we're going to dive into the last week. And while the title of this video is about creating new habits, really what we're talking about here is choice. Choice is something that we always have. It's a gift. It's given to us. It can be quite liberating, and at the same time, it can also sometimes feel overwhelming and like a straitjacket when we have too much choice. And at the end of the day, when we're looking to create a life that feels good, reflects who we are, is aligned with our values and our higher purpose, what we need to sustain us through there is being very conscious of our choices, because otherwise we can sort of spin and spiral into old habits and old patterns that keep us stuck and keep us away from who we are. And those patterns are what I discussed in earlier videos. And so just to name them really quickly is the pattern of falling into the expectation of who we need to be, or what our life needs to look like, or what our body looks to look like, or a bank account, right? So it's the shoulds that we are aware of in our life, we're sometimes not aware of. It's the judgment and the comparison and feeling like we might be falling short, we're not good enough, or we don't want to outshine our neighbors. And so basically everything that falls into the big umbrella of shame, and how that can keep us stepping back and hiding and trying. And the last thing of just the basic fears of rejection, fears of failure. And so the combination of those 3 things is this like mighty powerful trifecta that can keep us away from who we are and how we can contribute to this life. And at the end of the day, some of those things, those are subconscious and deeply buried patterns. And so we have to bring our awareness up and use our choice, use the willpower that we have that to make in any given moment to make a decision, yes or no. And I say willpower, and I want to just clarify that for a moment, because a lot of times I think we think of willpower as this very strong-willed, push-through kind of where we are aware of the temptation or the pleasure even that might be sitting over here, and we say, oh, no more cake, or right, we just kind of tense up and like push through, and we think that that's willpower. And actually, I don't really think that that's willpower. I think that that's more driven from almost that fear reaction of like, or it's like a punishment reaction, or there's something harsh in there. It doesn't feel like a very embodied, authentic thing, what we normally see as willpower, because there's still quite a lot of pain, I think, in that way of I'm going to avoid, or I'm going to just keep going anyway. And I'll use the example of just thinking back to what I would classify as willpower in my own life, when my desire was to have a body that I felt good about. And so my way of achieving that was through eating less and running more. And so it took a lot of willpower to stick to my own rules of don't eat food with fat in it, or make sure you go for a run every day after work. But that's not actually what I necessarily wanted. I was doing that to achieve this outcome that wasn't necessarily in my best interest, because it was perpetuating a disordered cycle. And so willpower, while on the outset could seem like a very great value. Really what we're looking for is the choice that's most reflective and most authentic of who you are in the given moment, recognizing your feelings, recognizing the needs that you have and the wants that you have. And so those choices that are going to be more authentic to you will sustain you even beyond willpower, because when willpower isn't coming from a very core place in yourself, you can fizzle out, and that's when and you can burn out. So going back to this idea of choice and how that can help create new habits. So I want to introduce this idea and this concept of a non-negotiable. So a non-negotiable, to a simple definition, is something that is a must. It cannot be compromised because it's what's going to sustain you over and over and every single day. It matches with, it's in full alignment with who you are, with your feelings and emotions, your needs, your wants, and your desires. So it starts from the place of, here is what I'm experiencing now, and this is how I want to come out from here and into the world. And so the non-negotiable is going to recognize your current state of being as well as your future desire of who you want to be, and it's going to help you bridge the gap from one to the next. So an example of a non-negotiable for me, I need to drink water. If I do not drink enough water, I get dehydrated, I get cranky, I can't think straight, I'm going to be short in my conversations with people, I am not going to be focused on what I'm doing. Okay, and so all those states of being, of cranky, short-tempered, and unfocused, that's not in alignment with who I want to be. So therefore, I make sure that I drink water. It's that simple, and that's my choice. And so if we're going out to a restaurant or we're going out for a drink, the number one thing that I will order is water before I even order a glass of wine, because I know it's not liquid, it's water. If I don't have enough water, I am not going to be my best self. Okay, so that's one simple example. Another example of a non-negotiable for me, it's become movement. And it's become a type of movement that allows me to feel into my body. So not push through and not create pain, but actually make my body feel good. And so some days that's yoga, some days that's dance, and it doesn't matter what it is, but my non-negotiable is that for 10 minutes I need to move. Some days it's longer. Some days I go to a yoga class for an hour and 15 minutes. Sometimes I do Embody, which is about an hour, right? Some days, like this morning, right? I needed to be out of my house by 9:30. I'm a slow mover in the morning. And so by 8:30, I'm still kind of waking up, doing the dishes, settling into my space. I had an hour to get into my car. We did 10 minutes of movement this morning. But the point is that you do the movement, and it's a non-negotiable. You don't leave the house without doing it. Because if I hadn't done that, I would have had tightness in my back. I would have had tightness in my hips. I wouldn't have connected yet to what I was actually feeling and slowing down to kind of be able to hear my own thoughts, okay? Which would have meant that every single conversation I would have had today, including this time here with you, would have been tainted, and it would have been coming from this disjointed place in me. And that's not really cool, right? So you'll start to build a list, a pile, a bucket of non-negotiables for you. And if you're wondering where to start with this, then just start to look at what you're already doing that makes your life work for you. It could be as simple as brushing your teeth and washing your face. I know, and that's probably something well, yeah, duh, you have to do that. But let me tell you, when you work from home, it's an option. You have a choice there. You're going to brush your teeth, wash your face. And so you may start to realize that it's just those little things that start to build yourself up so that when you are then showing up in the world, you are in alignment and you feel like you're bringing all of you to the table. So just start by looking around your life. What are you already doing, and what are you already doing well? And keep doing that. Guess what? You already have a habit, right? Then we're talking baby steps here. You can start to add to that. Okay, and so you start with one. The point here, we live in a world where we're always focused on like achievement and getting there quicker and getting to the end. And what I want to offer you is another way to create a life where it reflects you and it feels good. And it's just baby stepping it. Because if you kind of try to jump to the finish line, it's not going to be sustainable. And that's where you then are stuck in that place of like, this chaos and all that disorder that comes with it. So just starting to say, if I'm already doing this well, what could be one simple, easy thing to add to that? And that's going to build on the foundation that you already have. So I'm just thinking like, okay, so brushing your teeth, right? Washing your face in the morning. And then maybe it's like, and you know what, as I'm going to brush my teeth and wash my face, I'm just going to say a really quick gratitude. I'm just going to be thankful the fact that I have running water that's clean, right? And so now all of a sudden you have a simple gratitude practice. And so then you can build from there and say, actually, maybe now I want to take my gratitude practice and I want to like pause and sit for 5 minutes and actually write a few things down. And then so maybe you start doing that and that starts to feel good. And then you start to think, actually, I'm going to extend my 5 minutes to 15 minutes and I'm going to add in my 10 minutes of movement. And so it can be that just that simple, that you're just building from one thing to the next. And then all of a sudden you look back over your life and you realize, actually, my morning now, it feels like me. It feels like I have time to be present to myself, to my feelings, to a higher power. And now I have the thing that now I have something to sustain me to get through my day. And that's a very different approach than waking up and saying, I need to be meditating, I need to be doing yoga, I need to be having gratitude, all these kinds of things. Because when you may want those things and desire those things, and that's awesome, hold on to that desire. But as soon as it feels like a chore, it feels like a need to or a have to, it kind of like puts crust around our heart and our soul, and it stops us from actually doing it. But if you can start from what you're doing well and just build from there, it's going to take you a lot further. Okay, so just to again address like why is any of this important? One, because your life is going to feel a lot better. But the other thing is just backing up to last week, and I was talking about this concept of I am here to shine, and just to introduce the last week's mantra of I choose me, right? Again, the choice thing, that we want to remember that ultimately our purpose here is to contribute and to give, and it's not about me. However, as we all know, if we're not filled up, if we don't have our own oxygen mask on, we ain't going to be able to give anything of value to people, right? And so that's why we're going to wrap up this 8-week series with coming back to center and coming back home, saying, what do I need to do to care well for myself? And keeping that higher purpose and that bigger picture in mind at all times of why am I taking care of myself? It's not just for selfish reasons, it's so that I can give the best me to the world. I want to introduce this idea of craving really quickly into the picture. There's this really awesome author, I can't remember his name, can't even remember the name of his book, but he talks about habits, and he paints a picture of how our habits work. And at the core of the habit, it's kind of like the engine that drives the cycle of habits that we're in, is this idea of craving. And he introduced this concept that makes so much sense to me, that if whatever we're craving deep down, that's going to drive our choices. That we are wired in such a way that we're going to either consciously or unconsciously notice, be aware of that craving, and do what we need to do to take care of ourselves. It's kind of like a survival mechanism or security mechanism. So if you want to be creating habits that are sustainable, check in. What is it you're really craving in life? And what is it that you're really desiring? And it kind of, again, loops us back to the beginning of the series where we started with desires for our life and desired outcomes. And so if you can connect to a craving that is connected to the highest good for you and for the world, and you are really clear on your intention and why do I want to be making these choices? Why do I want to be creating new habits in my life? Connecting to that is going to sustain you big time. And I'll just share really quickly with you a craving that I've had that's really helped me, again, over time, we're talking time here, create choices and create habits that feel like are aligned with who I am. So one of the cravings that I have is to be creating work and writing and relationships and business that is where I am coming from a connected place to a higher power, to love, to consciousness, whatever. That I'm not just showing up in my human ego self thinking I know best, right? I want to come from a place where I'm sort of just hearing and giving and channeling, right? And so that's a craving of mine that for years I was very aware of. I was not doing well, and I didn't have a way or practice to sort of connect in. And again, it just starts with baby steps of saying, okay, well, what's one choice you can start to make to move towards that. And so if you can be aware of the craving and let that fuel you, when it's your heart's desire, your soul's desire, no matter whether you might try one thing and it doesn't work for you and you're like, ugh, no, I'm not going to try binaural beats again. Great, don't do it. It didn't work for you. You can test this, you can experiment and find the thing that is actually going to bring you life. And connect that action with the bigger picture and the bigger craving, and that's going to fuel you forward. So just to wrap up here, I want to just remind and paint a picture that life is not a straight line, that recovering ourselves, living as our truest self is not a straight line, that we're spiraling not only through the universe, but we're spiraling around the different parts of ourselves that need attention at different parts of our life. And so just because you may have listened to these videos and you think, great, yeah, I've got what I need, it's not the end, it's actually just the beginning, that you're going to keep revisiting these concepts and keep having to look at yourself and keep looking at how your ego is getting in the way, and keep looking at how you can be more love, and keep looking at what your fears are, and keep looking at how you can have courage, right? Like every day and every week and year, it's another chance to find out more about yourself and bring your actions and your choices into alignment with yourself. So please don't get discouraged to think, I'm starting here and I want to be there. Like, it's cool. Like, you just kind of journey along and spiral along and twist and turn, and one day you wake up and you think, I'm a lot further along than I was there. And then all of a sudden the bar's moved and you're here. And I think if you can continue in this process with detachment from getting anywhere and having to feel like you're moving forward, and just be okay with where you are, but be aware that in the present moment you can make the choices that you want to be making, then that's going to sustain you as well, and that's going to help you create habits, because you're not going to get discouraged because your focus isn't at the end goal. Your focus is just the right here and now, and celebrate the wins, celebrate what you're doing well, celebrate where you do something different. And if you woke up 10 minutes earlier, like, that's great. Like, it doesn't have to be like a full hour earlier. It's just whatever the little small choices that you want to be making in your life to create new habits. Celebrate each time you do that. And that's also going to sustain you. The word gratitude is coming to mind too. Like, be thankful for yourself and thankful that you're making the time to listen to this or just do anything different and discover yourself a little bit more. Okay, I think that's I think that's where I'm gonna wrap up today. I'm just checking my notes to see if there was anything else I wanted to say. I don't think there is. So I hope today's been helpful for you, to encourage you that you can start small, baby steps, just one step at a time. That's going to keep you going forward. Really check in with your cravings to figure out what is it you're really wanting and what is it you're really desiring, and let that fuel your action forward. And remember, you always have a choice. You can always say yes to what you want. You can always say no to what you don't want. Okay? And just to mention again that everything that I've shared today and the past 7 videos, all of that is part of a book and the course Your True You Journey. And if you are in the Swansea area and you want to dive into this a little bit more, you feel like now's the right time to really start to uncover and learn about yourself and love yourself more and trust yourself, then the group is starting on September 30th. We're meeting Sundays into December, so you kind of get a head start on the new year. You're going to finish off this year with much more of you in the picture. So get in touch, and this week there is an early bird savings, so if you want to sign up this week, then get in touch with me. You've got 2 days left, and if not, the registration closes September 21st if you need a little bit more time to think about it. Okay, hope this has been helpful. Lots of love, and catch you guys soon. Bye.